Hello YouTube, Goddard Radio Mosca here again with another beer review for you, as is usual. For this one we're going to go back to one of the breweries that I've already done 2 reviews for, and you can find the link to these in the video description there, as well you can find the brewery website, so have a look at those if you are interested. But today we're going to return to Privat Brauerei Stuttgart and have a little look at their Schwaben Bräu beer. And so we're going to have a little look at the Das Schwarze from this particular brand, from Schwaben Bräu. Some people refer to this brewery as Dinkelacker-Schwaben Bräu because of the 2 biggest components of the brewery group, if you like, but I believe the correct term for it is Privat Brauerei Stuttgart, and then it's the Schwaben Bräu brand. But as is usual with my beer reviews, I'll just take you through a brief history of the brewery and tell you a little bit about where it's from. And as I always say, if you are simply just interested in the tasting of this beer, then feel free to go on towards the latter part of the video and you will catch that particular segment. So anyway, the history of the Dinkelacker-Schwaben Bräu brewery appears to incorporate a few different breweries that merged at various points throughout the history. The first brewery involved in Privat Brauerei Stuttgart was actually that of Ernst Emanuel Smudge, and he founded his eponymous brewery in the year 1861. Now in 1878 Robert Leith laid the foundation stone for Schwaben Bräu, which is this guy here, in the Vaihingen district in Stuttgart. In 1888 Karl Dinkelacker established the Dinkelacker brewery, which remains in the same location to this day. In 1897 Schwaben Bräu became the first beer to actually be delivered by motor car, and this machine actually came from the house of Gottlieb Daimler, who I believe that company is now part of the Mercedes-Benz group, or Daimler-Benz they were known as for a little while. But in 1900 Karl Dinkelacker brewed the famous Pils that is now a well-established favourite in Stuttgart, CD Pils, and when you go to the city you actually see CD Pils advertised all over the place, and it obviously takes its the CD from Karl Dinkelacker there. But in 1903 another brewery associated with the Dinkelacker-Schwaben Bräu, or Privat Brauerei Stuttgart, however you want to describe it, another one of these breweries was born, and that was the brewery of David Sandwald, which specialised in the brewing of wheat beers, or Hefeweizens, or however you want to call them. But that same year Schwaben Bräu was actually bottled using one of the world's first automatic bottling machines. If we move on a little bit to 1971, Dinkelacker actually bought over the long established Smudge brewery, and then in 1978 Dinkelacker also acquired the Sandwald brewery, and the merged breweries continued to grow over the next few years, and then in 1988 they were actually able to celebrate VfB Stuttgart winning the Bundesliga championship. I'm not sure whether it was called Bundesliga at that point, so Germans, if you're watching, please correct me there if I am indeed wrong. But in 1996 the merger of Dinkelacker and Schwaben Bräu breweries, at this time they were actually considered 2 of the major traditional Stuttgart breweries, and then they merged together. But the brewery was owned for a period of time by InBev, but in 2007 Wolfgang Dinkelacker actually bought the brewery and returned it to independence, and today the brewery has over 300 employees, and apparently it's the biggest brewery in Stuttgart and one of the largest independent group breweries within Baden-Württemberg, of course, and indeed throughout Germany. But to summarise that history for you, you have Dinkelacker, and basically they took up the Smudge brewery and the Sandwald brewery, and then Dinkelacker and Schwaben Bräu later merged. Schwaben Bräu, as far as I can tell, didn't actually buy over any other breweries, but this brewery is actually really interesting pretty much because they retain all the brands of their all the different companies that they took in, which is really cool that they're doing it that way, and I really think that's quite interesting. And as you heard from the history that I took you through there, the brewery is quite pioneering in that sense. They had a lot of things where they were the first to do it, like Schwaben Bräu, of course, having one of the world's first automatic bottling lines and things like that. But to list a few of the other beers that you can get from these guys, under the Dinkelacker name you can get the Helle, Pils, Dark, Märzen, Privat, Volksfest beer, Weihnachtsfest beer, Golden Lager, and they also had a 125th anniversary beer recently. Under the Schwaben Bräu brand you can get Das Echte, which is a Märzen, one of the ones I've reviewed for you already. You can get Das Schwarze here, which is a Schwarz beer, Das Naturtrüb, which is a Keller beer, Das Helle, which is a Munich style lager, as I've reviewed that one for you as well, the Hellebock, the Meisterpils, Meisterweizen, and you can get a Hell and a Dunkel variety of this, Original, Pils, Volksfest beer, and Weihnachts beer. Under the Sandwald brewery you can get Export, Hefeweizen, Crystalweizen, Dunkelweizen, a Radler, and also a Cola beer, and there's some light varieties of these beers also. A few other ones that are involved here you can also get with Brauchel, which is another brewery they took in. You can get an Export and a Hefeweizen. With Smudge you can get the Vula beer, which is actually a really nice one. I've got one to review for you later. Under the Klus name you can get a Keller Pils and an Export beer. Under Heigalocher Sigel Monastery you can get a Hefeweizen, and and you can get this in Dunkel, Helles and Crystal, and also a Pils from their beer, and you can also get a Land beer and a Spezial from these guys apparently, so that's quite cool. As you can see, there's a whole host of different beers that you can get from this brewery. But let's move on to the tasting of this guy. This is a 4.9% Schwarze beer, and as I've mentioned before, 4.9% seems to be a really popular ABV, if you like. So let me just bring up the camera, and you can have a little look at the label on this one. I think this is actually a really nice label and really cool for a Schwarze beer. In fact, it's almost the same sort of colour stream that you get from Kustritzer, and that's a beer I've still to review for you at some point. You can see on the top label there as well, it says Das Schwarze, then you've got the traditional Schwaben Bräu crest there. I'm not sure if that is actually the Stuttgart city crest or exactly what that is there, but still we can have a little look at it, and as you can see, it just says here, full flavour and hop herbs inside, basically, I think it says, and it's due, the best buy date on this guy, and I think it's quite cool that they do that in Germany, the best drink buy date is the 8th of November 2014. So without further ado, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting. Quite a calm pop on this one here, so let's get it out into the glass. Actually smells quite fresh. That's the first thing I'm picking up from it when I pour it out into the glass here, and as you can see, definitely looks exactly as you would expect for a Schwarze beer. That sort of dark and cola black colour, if you like. You can see the nice sort of two-finger, it's a two-finger frothy kind of beigeish tan head on this guy, and that's exactly what you would expect from the Schwarze beer as well. So I'll just get this guy closed up and we'll stick it back there. So as you can see, a really nice looking Schwarze beer, in fact very, very dark. If I put my fingers behind that, I can't see anything at all. If I take it over to the light, it does have a very dark ruby tint to it, but it's definitely a sort of rosewoody colour, very, very black with just a little hint of ruby in it, and you can see the head's just gone down to one finger as well. But in terms of the aroma here, again it smells very fresh. That's the first thing that's noticeable with this guy. But yeah, you've got some dark malts in here, some roasted character. If you sort of take your nose further away from it, if you like, you can get the little hints of coffee and chocolate in there, and I think there is a little bit of sort of roasted caramel sugars as well, and there's some bread there too. But yeah, it definitely smells like bread, and definitely a roasted kind of caramel in there with some bread and some nice dark chocolate and coffee malts in there. So without further ado, the head's just going down on this guy. Let's get a taste of it. Now, it is actually really quite bitter. That's the first thing that comes out with it. But yeah, it's got quite a sharp coffee kick on it with the malt base. You're getting a nice little bite from the sort of coffee malts there at the start, and the roasted caramel flavour is just in the background, and it's actually quite a wet feeling Schwarze beer. It's quite a light and wet one. That's the other first impression I'm getting from it. But yeah, it's very light. The malt base is a sort of underlying flavour. It's not kind of got so much of a punch to it as some of these beers do. It's not quite in your face sort of thing. But you're getting the bready sort of flavour just in there as well, and it's quite subtle as well. And there's some nutty and woody character also. It's actually a really nice kind of well balanced flavour, but as I say, it's very surprising to find one that's this light and this wet that's a Schwarze beer. On the end, it actually does have quite a bit of a kind of burnt bitter character to it, which is quite interesting. And you've got the sort of fruits, the dark fruits just coming in and lingering. It's not too prominent, in fact. It just sort of sits there on the kind of middle of the tongue, if you like. It's not too sweet on the end. But like I say, the most prominent flavour with this guy is the kind of bitter coffee bite that you get at the start of it. But it's quite interesting, this one. It's quite interesting to see a Schwarze beer that is so light, in fact. But yeah, definitely, you're starting off with this kind of coffee bite that you get, and the underlying sort of caramel flavour there, and you've got some bready taste in at the start too. Some nice woody and nutty flavours in there also, and then you're getting a nice burnt bitterness at the end, which is quite interesting. Usually the roasted character isn't something that's quite so sharp as that, so it's quite interesting, the kind of burnt coffee and roasted caramel and stuff like that. But as I say, in terms of the mouthfeel, it's quite light for a Schwarze beer, and it's strongly carbonated as well. And as I say, it's quite a thin one and quite light bodied and a little watery actually. And it actually has a little bit of a dry mouthfeel to it too, but it's quite interesting. But yeah, actually really quite an interesting one here. But it's a nice, easy drinking dark beer. It's not quite as flavourful as some of the things you'll find from the likes of Kustritzer and all this sort of thing, and it is a macro beer. That's the thing, like Schwaben Bräu is a macro brewery. But this is, out of the ones that I've tried for you so far, the Schwarze beer is the one I would say that is the best out of the Helles and the Das Echte Märzen beer. I think this is the best one out of the three that I've tasted so far, so hopefully I can get a few more if I have time and review those for you as well. But this one, if you want a nice sort of light, easy drinking Schwarze beer, you know, give this guy a go. And as I say, it's quite easy to find as well, and this is probably one that you can get out with Germany quite easily, because my friend actually got the Helles beer in Aldi at home, so maybe you can pick these up in Aldi and Lidl stores, so be sure to check that out. But if you have tried this beer, please let me know in the comment section your own thoughts on this brewery. It's always interesting to hear other people's thoughts on the beer and see if I'm picking up the right flavours and stuff like that. As I say, the brewery website is in the video description, as are my other review videos, and if you've enjoyed this one, please like, subscribe and share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Help my channel to grow. Your support over my 170 or so videos so far is much appreciated. But thanks again for watching my beer reviews. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and I'll be back soon with another one. Cheers.